Well, hey there, friends, and welcome to the Betterology Podcast, helping you think better, do better, and be better in your business, family, and faith, and get happier, healthier, and wealthier along the way. I'm Philip Gonzalez, and I'm so glad you joined us today, whether you're watching live or whether you're joining us after the fact. I am excited because today we are going to talk about how to be happier in every relationship you have by stopping the strain. Now, if you're a human, you have relationships with other humans. Maybe these are business relationships and you have suppliers or employees or employers or team members. Of course, most of us have family relationships: mother, father, brother, sister, husband, wife, children. We have neighbor relationships. We have relationships with friends, perhaps from our childhood or other places. And the thing is, every relationship has seasons that it goes through. And you've probably noticed this. Maybe when you first started your company, you realized that everyone who was a part of it was so excited and you were all on board together. But over time, things begin to feel strained at home because you're focusing so much effort on the business that you're not able to really invest at home. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you've really made a priority of investing in your spouse, in your kids, in your family, and you're actually noticing that's causing some issues with your work life. Maybe you're not meeting deadlines the way you need to. Maybe your mind isn't as clear and sharp as it should be to take those next steps to grow your business or to advance in your career. Or maybe it's something else entirely. Maybe it's the circle of friends that surrounds you are not leading you in a helpful way. They're actually taking you down a path that is not most effective for your growth. Well, there's any number of things that can cause strain in a relationship. And that strain ultimately stretches you to the point where you're just not happy anymore. What we're going to explore today, I believe, has amazing potential to help you overcome just that. Now, last time we talked about the 5 C's of healthy relationships. We talked about commonality. You can't have a relationship with someone if you have literally nothing in common. Sometimes it takes a little digging, but you can almost always find something you have in common. The second C of healthy relationships is communication. You need to be able to actually communicate with another person to interact with them. The third thing is care. You choose to care about the other person and put a part of yourself into that relationship rather. The fourth thing is compromise. If you really care about someone else, you'll be willing to give a little and get a little. You find that meeting in the middle point. And the fifth thing is commitment. And commitment is where you choose to stick with it even when it's hard. We explored that last time. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, go check out that episode when this one is done. Also, in that episode, we have a link to a very special tool that will help you evaluate where you are in the different relationships in your life. Well, today we're going to talk about what I call the 4 rings of relationship. And this is one of my favorite topics to explore with people, one of my favorite things to speak on, one of my favorite things to coach on, because understanding this way of kind of dividing our relationships is one of the quickest ways to get clarity on where you're spending your time and emotional energy, what it's doing for you, and how you can get better results. So, that said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we will dive right into our content today. Like I said, the 4 rings of relationship is one of my favorite things to share. And so it starts really with this question. Do you ever feel strained in your relationships? And if you're human, you probably would say yes if you're actually paying attention. That strain shows up in little ways. Sometimes you get a little more snappy with people than you'd like. Sometimes it shows up when you're on your way to be in the same room with someone. Maybe you're coming home after work, or maybe you're going to work or the office after the weekend at home with your family. And you feel it in your chest, this almost a sense of anxiety. You're not sure what's going to happen or what you should do. When that strain happens, we have a choice. Number one, we can either suppress it and try to pretend that it doesn't exist. And most people do that, to be honest with you, because most people haven't been trained and haven't cultivated the discipline to really explore why the strain is there and what they can do about it. So most people suppress it and hope it gets better, but for most of us, that doesn't just get better on its own. The second thing we can do, instead of suppressing it, is to address it and ask the question, why am I feeling strained in this relationship? And what can I do about it? Well, that's what we want to do is give you a way to explore that and have some answers. So here is how to stop the strain. And I'm going to submit to you that a simple paradigm shift and three simple practices will help you get happier in every relationship that you have. All right, here is the first thought. The idea is that you can divide your relationships basically into four rings, four concentric circles. And these rings represent closeness to you. And so the first ring is simply, if you're thinking in I terms, myself. Most people don't think about it in these terms, but you have a relationship with yourself. I have a relationship with myself. I speak to myself. I spend time by myself. I have desires for myself. And when we begin to think about our relationship with ourselves as a real relationship that needs to be nurtured, it can help us prioritize our decisions. We could kind of explore it this way. Myself is how I treat and take care of my physical health and appearance, my mental and emotional health, and my moral and spiritual development. The first step you can take to stop the strain in your relationships and be happier in every relationship that you have really is start by working on yourself. Start by taking steps to grow in your physical health, in your appearance. I mean, if you think about it this way, one of the biggest strains on relationships happens when people are insecure about themselves. And so if we're insecure in our work life, we're not sure about our capabilities, we're going to posture and we're going to over promise and under deliver. For those of us that lead teams and own companies, we will never admit weakness to the team. Insecurity has a huge negative impact. And one of the quickest ways to overcome insecurity is to take active steps to improve your physical health and your appearance. When you look in the mirror and you're proud of what you see, it has an incredible effect on how you relate to the outside world. Now, a great book on this, by the way, if you want to get more into that, that actually is a really deep topic. I'm not going to slide over. Well, I guess I will. Yeah. A great book on this is there we go. I reference this book a lot because it was really helpful for me and has a lot of great points. Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz is a really fascinating book that explores the connection between how we see ourselves and how we really do everything else in our life. So, fascinating book if you want to check that out. But if you want to stop the strain in your relationships and be happier, start by working on yourself, your physical health and appearance, your mental and emotional health. Maybe it's time to see a counselor. Maybe it's time to read some personal development books. Maybe it's time to get serious about some of your productivity habits. The third thing is moral and spiritual development. I'm just going to say it like it is. If you are the kind of person who takes advantage of others and has no interest in living a moral and decent life, your relationships will be strained because you will be sucking the life out of them by your refusal to be a good person. Now, that's a harsh words for some people, but I care enough about everyone who's going to listen to this and see this that I want you to know the truth. If you don't invest in your moral and spiritual development, you will have strain in your relationships. But when you choose to take steps to grow, you will begin to see that strain start to lessen. The first ring of relationship is my relationship with myself, your relationship with yourself. Now, the second ring of relationships is simply what I call my circle. I don't know if you remember this or not, but a few years ago, T-Mobile had a feature. Back in the days before unlimited calling was a thing, you had to conserve your minutes. You only had so many minutes in your plan. And then after 9 p.m., you could talk to other people. Well, T-Mobile rolled out this feature called My Circle. And you could pick 5 of your closest friends or family members. And to those people, you could call anytime, anywhere. It was a great feature. But what I love about this is the idea that there's people in your life that really are in your circle. You care about them. In fact, we could even just define it. My circle are the people with whom I have a two-way relationship, about whom I care and who care about me. So there's a number of people in this circle. There's your spouse or significant other. There's your children. There's other family members you have, close friends, neighbors, coworkers, even regular encounters. The kind of stereotypical one is the barista at Starbucks or maybe one of the cashiers at your local grocery store. If there's people that you have a two-way relationship with, you communicate with them, you have things in common with them, you care about them. In some cases, you're willing to compromise for them. You're willing to be committed to them. That's my circle. And of course, each of these relationships has their own particulars that you can use to do your best in them. But by and large, it's this idea of a circle that I think is so helpful. And here's why. In our social media age, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, we have applied the term friend to a vast group of people with whom you really don't have a significant caring relationship that's two-way. And one of the biggest strains in relationship is when we feel like we should be caring about far more people, when in reality, our ability to truly care about people is a limited resource. There was a study I read years ago that was fascinating. They did studies on certain brain regions in humans and in monkeys and other primates, and they discovered there's a certain area of the brain. Forgive me for not remembering what it's called. There's a certain area of the brain that determines how many people you are able to conceive of as individuals. What this means is, well, there's a quote attributed to Joseph Stalin: "One death is a tragedy, 1 million deaths is a statistic." And that's a gruesome quote, but the underlying principle is based on simply our biology. You can't actually think of other people as real individual people beyond about roughly 100 or so. And so what that means is your ability to really care is a finite resource. One of the biggest strains in relationships comes when you're trying too hard to care for people that are outside of what I call your circle. Now, if you want to go deeper into any one of these levels, please feel free to reach out to me. You can leave a comment below, or you can reach out to me directly. I'd love to explore this more with you if you would like some deeper stuff there. But I want to give you the big ideas today. All right, the third thing is what I call my market, the third ring of relationship. Now, I'm in business. I've been in ministry for many years as well. And there's this idea of a market or an available audience. Here's how I define my market: the people or audience I have the most potential to influence. So this could be in business, this could be clients and customers. In ministry, this could be potential church members. This could be for families at home. This could be school or neighbor families who are nearby you. These would be people in my field of work or people at my gym or cafe. These are people that you don't necessarily have a two-way caring relationship with right now, but you do have potential to influence. Now, this may be influencing them to make a purchasing decision. This may be influencing them to make a faith decision. This could be simply influencing to help them live a better life, someone in your neighborhood. So it's this outer ring, but here's the big idea. You have potential to influence them in a positive way. You have enough in common. You personally have enough to offer that you're able to do something. And here's a big thing that I think people miss. You can't change the entire world, but you can make a significant change in a certain portion of it. More than just your circle, the people you have to a relationship, there are people outside that you can influence for good. Now, again, I'll use business terms. If you're in business context, your market are the people most likely to buy. They need what you have. They're positioned to be able to buy it. And obviously, if you're in business, you know that that's a really important group of people to invest in. But that's a qualitatively different type of person, or maybe a category of people, than your circle. If you're spending all of your energy on activities to reach your market in business, or reach your community for your church, or reach those people in that outer ring, and you're neglecting the people in your circle, or you're neglecting yourself, you're going to feel strained because you're out of balance. And vice versa. If you're spending far more time than you probably should on personal development or even on your circle, and you're neglecting your market, you're not going to get traction with your business. You're not going to get traction with your church. You're not going to expand your circle if you want to have more friends and more people who you're connected with. It's finding the balance that is the key. And that leads us to the final ring of relationship, what I call the crowd. And the crowd is simply what it says. It's the crowd. It is the mass of undifferentiated people out there in the wider world that somehow you can see or have connection with, and yet they're not likely to respond to you if you try to influence them in a certain way. You certainly don't have two-way relationship with them, and they're very much not you. The crowd is basically everybody else. We could say everybody else with whom I have no likelihood of influencing them, no current relationship, and no close proximity. And this is what I believe one of the biggest damaging effects of social media is. Most online friends, quote unquote, are actually the crowd. They're not part of your market. You really don't have the potential to influence them. And if you tried, it would probably fall flat because they're not interested in what you're selling. They're not interested in what you're saying. They're not positioned to care or take action. They're just the crowd. It's not even probably worth cultivating a relationship to bring them into your circle because they're not close to you physically. They don't have a lot in common with you in other ways. But so much of the activity that so many people put forth online, make sure we post fun things. Did I get enough likes? Do I want to add more friends or connections or followers? We pour so much energy sometimes into pleasing the crowd when in reality, the crowd has zero value to our life. Doesn't mean they're not valuable people in the eyes of God. Doesn't mean that they don't have value themselves as humans, but they're not valuable to you. And by devoting too much energy into caring and thinking and wondering and engaging with the crowd, people with whom you don't have a legitimate two-way caring relationship and people that you aren't well positioned to influence, what you're doing is you're taking your limited resources and you're wasting them. And that is one of the biggest causes of strain in every relationship we have. And here's what it looks like. It's getting lost in the upside down. I'm a fan of the TV show Stranger Things. We just finished season 4 yesterday and epic, so crazy. But one of the central ideas of this television show is there's this alternate dimension, this other reality, the upside down, where things are a lot like the reality we know, but it's dark and twisted. When you get your rings inverted, when you're more concerned about what you do to see and serve and please and engage with the crowd than you are about your market, your circle, or yourself, it looks like your life, but it's totally inverted. And the pressure that so many of us feel in our relationships, that strain, is simply because we're out of balance or even upside down. I would submit to you that a better balanced place to be is this. Take the time to invest in growing yourself, your physical health and appearance, your emotional and mental health and well-being, your moral and spiritual development. Invest in growing who you are as a person, and then invest in the people who are in your circle. You have actual relationship. Don't sacrifice the people with whom you have a real relationship for those that you have fake relationships with. And then your market. Begin to see the people that you have the ability to influence and choose to take steps to influence them for good, for helpful directions, for positive things. If you're in business, make sure what you're selling is really helping them live a better life. If you're in ministry, make sure that you're communicating in ways that really do lead them to life. If you're with the parent-teacher association or you're in a new neighborhood, be the kind of person that brings life to the situation, and you'll be all the better for it. So here's the question then. What do you do to get your relationships back in balance? Because if you're like me, then you could probably confess, there's plenty of times when that balance is skewed. And let me just say this, by the way, I don't believe there's one finite number or ratio for every person that it applies equally, right? So different people and in different seasons, some seasons, listen, somebody needs to hear this. In some seasons of your life, you need to pull back and invest very much in yourself to get some things figured out, to get some things right, back in alignment. And then you can go and start connecting with others and investing in them. In other seasons, you need to stop your self investment because you've done enough. You need to start focusing on others. I can't give you the answer for what that number is, that time amount, or that season. You need to take that, think about it, pray about it, have some real intentional thought about it. But here's what I would submit to you are 3 steps you can take to get your relationships back in balance when you can feel that they're out of whack. First thing is simply to track. And here's what I mean by that. There's a great passage in the Bible that says, love keeps no record of wrongs. I think that's wonderful. But I would argue that one of the most loving things you can do if you really feel your relationships are out of balance is keep a record of time. See, so much of what we do in our day gets lost in just odds and ends. We don't know where our time goes, and we wake up and realize, oh, shoot, I have to do this, I have to do that. So, what I've started to do, because I definitely struggle with this, I've actually started an interesting practice of tracking my time. And when I track my time, I actually use this app. It's a great app. It's called Toggle, and it's a free app. You can go to toggl.com and you can start tracking for free. I use this app to track literally everything I do. I can tell you how much time I spent on household chores. I can tell you how much time I spent with each of my children. I can tell you how much time I spent in the bathroom. Not that you would want to know. And I don't do this because I'm necessarily OCD, although I often do like things a certain way. I do this so that I can have real numbers to tell me how much time I'm devoting to my family, to my work, and to myself, so that I can make sure that I keep that in balance. Every week, I get an email that actually shows me, gives me a little overview, a report on how I spent my time, and I can evaluate. Did I do a good job this week? And if I did, I celebrate. And if I didn't, okay, I choose to move forward better. So, my encouragement to you, whether it's with Toggle, whether it's another app, whether it's another methodology, doesn't matter to me. Choose to track how you spend your time so that you can start to get real data to know how much time are you spending investing in yourself? How much time are you spending investing in your circle? How much time are you spending investing in your market? If you do that, you'll find a lot more clarity. Now, once you know what you're doing, and then you can choose what you're going to do next. If we want to stop the strain and be happier, tracking your time will show you pretty quickly, oh, wow, I'm actually spending way more time in this bucket than I am in this one. And then you get the choice to prioritize. Now, again, I can't tell you what the priority should be, but I can tell you that when you have good data, you can choose to say, okay, I want to spend this much time on myself and not apologize for that, not feel bad about that. I need to invest in me. I want to spend this much time in the people in my circle, with my spouse or significant other, with my kids, with my friends. I want to spend this much time, probably work related or ministry related, investing in my market. And I want to start cutting as much time as possible, the time and energy I spend on the crowd, anyone who's not in your market, your circle, or yourself. Prioritize. And then here's the thing. Once you have those priorities in line, perhaps if you want, you could screen grab this and print it out or just write this down somewhere and decide, then stay the course. Stay the course. And this is one of the hardest things for people like me who are creative and always coming up with new ideas. There is an endless amount of things to distract me and take me away from staying the course. But I'm choosing to do my best to stick with my plan on how I want to devote my time to the relationships that matter so that I can be most effective, more happy, and stop the strain in my relationships. And you can do the same. Now, that said, I'm glad you joined me for this teaching on the four rings of relationship. And I'd like to hear from you. If you're watching this live or after the fact, I'd love to hear your comments on maybe how this idea struck you, maybe where you feel you are right now in the different relationships of your life, or any other commentary that you have. Maybe there's a different way to track that you found really helpful. Maybe there's a particular methodology you've chosen to prioritize things for yourself. I'd love to hear from you. So definitely leave a comment. Thank you, as always, for liking and sharing this with others. I really appreciate it. Now, you're going to notice a few things in the next few episodes. I'm going to be experimenting with different lighting techniques. I'm having a good time upgrading my space. And we're also going to start getting into a little more business-focused content in the next few episodes. So if that's something that's relevant to you, I highly recommend you check it out and share it with a friend. If it's not relevant to you, I would encourage you to check it out anyway. I'm a big believer that principles in one domain can often be applied to another domain very effectively. And I do my best to help do that. And as always, if you want to find more encouragement and inspiration, you can check out philipgonzalez.com to find more great resources to help you think better, do better, and be better in your business, family, and faith, and get happier, healthier, and wealthier along the way. As always, thanks for joining me. And I generally can't see the chat. I want to. I see Facebook user. Thank you for loving this. And I look forward to loving all of you guys with our next episode next Tuesday. The target time is 10 a.m. That's my goal. I'm going to do my best to stick to it. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time right here on Betterology.